All right. What is up, everybody? Welcome to Crash Desktop. I'm here playing Kerbal again tonight. To excuse me being a little late getting started this evening, but I've got a decent headache and I was waiting for some Tylenol to kick in. So here we are now. So I'm going to do something easy. I'm going to do something I've done a lot of, but I want to check something out. We're going to send something to the moon. So let's whip up a rocket and go to the moon. If you haven't done this yet in Kerbal on your own, this might be helpful. I'll show you how I do it. And yeah, let's do that. I don't know. I've done it so many times that it's the kind of thing I can do even when I'm distracted. So, and I got a cool mod it's fairly new. I don't know when it came out. It's Parallax. They added tessellation textures to the surface of some of the other planets, which is freaking cool. I don't even know what this was. I was checking something earlier, and it should be really neat. Like the surface of the moon should look really cool right now. So, yeah, let's get rolling. Why is this not picking up any sound though? That's my question. We're gonna fix that. Let me fix that real quick. Come on, you. Well, that's just very strange. You gotta love when it decides not to cooperate. There it goes. Sometimes you just gotta get it to remember that it works. We'll turn that down a little bit too for you guys so it's not super duper loud. That seems reasonable. All right, I'm turning that back down for me because that's giving me a headache. Hey, what's up, man? All right, so we're gonna whip a quick rocket up to go to the moon. Let's do this. You need a couple things. So here, let me pull this up. I'm gonna pull this up. I want to show you all this. I don't think this is the current one, but it's close enough. So there is a handy dandy Delta V map. Let me just show you this. That's right there. There is a newer version of this. I don't know where the new one is, but that's fine. It's close enough. The moon hasn't changed much. Hello, how's it going? So this is kind of just a rough map of how much you need to get to the moon. I have a document somewhere on my computer that has much more precise stuff that I worked out for some stuff I did in the past, but couldn't find it this evening. I gotta dig it up. This is pretty good. And we're gonna do an interesting design here. I have a fun idea. We'll hide this for now. Basically, the long and short of it, this is out of date. It's close. But long and short of it is you need this series added together to get to the moon. So the 860 and the 310. In a completely ideal world where you do everything perfectly, you would need this much delta V to get there and this to land. I find that typically I use a little more than this because I like to do free return trajectories, and I use a little more than this because I like to do safety when I'm landing on other planets. So I usually build in quite a bit more than that. Let's hide that. And it kind of works in reverse too. Like if you're coming back, that's what you end up using too. But we're gonna do something that might have been what that craft was actually. I was maybe playing with this earlier today. That's okay. So this is the Mark II pod. We're gonna do something smallish. It's 2 Kerbals. We don't need everybody. And we're not gonna do the full Apollo all the things. So it's a fairly good bit more complicated vehicle. So we've got a pod, we've got a heat shield. The pod has a decent amount of electrical charge built into it, so that's not a bad thing. It has reaction wheels, that's a good thing. They're not very strong. I don't know how much power they actually have, but it doesn't really matter because they're only there during re-entry. You're gonna need them then. It carries 2 Kerbals. We need to stick this. I don't use this pod that often. We're gonna need to stick this on the pad with some Kerbals in it. And I want to check where they're actually attached when they get out. So let's stick it on the pad. Nice. Dude, I gotta get that Spitfire out more often, man. That thing, oof, so fun to fly. So fun to fly. I saw a guy earlier live streaming while I was browsing, and he was flying the upcoming VOT F4U Corsair mod that's coming out. I don't remember who's developing it, but it looked like he was testing it for them, and I was like, yes, excellent. Give me that. So hopefully that means that's coming soon. Okay, looks like they're just attached to the front. How hard is it to get back onto that? Looks like you don't have to be too close to it, honestly. And we don't have the ability to really test that, but that's okay. On the moon, it'll be super easy to get back into this, so we don't have to worry about any of that. Get him back in there and recover that. Okay, so that's the first thing we need to check. So we got our pod, we got this, we got enough battery in the pod, honestly. We're gonna put like some solar panels on the spacecraft, but you don't need them on the pod. You really don't want much weight on here. Couple things we do want. What size coupling is this? Because I'm not doing a full Apollo multiple docking and undocking shenanigans, but I am going to have us use a transfer vehicle, so that we can do a dock, a rendezvous and dock in orbit, because that's always fun to do. So we'll throw that on there. And then we're gonna need some parachutes. And I have normal and then real chute parachutes, and I'm struggling to remember how good are these. They're too big, so they're not gonna work with this one, but that's a really useful parachute. That might work. What are you? So you have to be careful about this. There's a thing with these. Like you see here. Okay, that is a normal parachute. It should be enough for the larger pod, but not necessarily. This one or the other of these is actually too small. This one is, it's the same size when you stick it onto there. Obviously we're not using it on this, but like, hey, look at that. Okay, it's same size, but it isn't. This one's a real parachute. This one's a drogue chute. I have lost pods by forgetting that and sticking that on top of them. Oh, whoops, you don't have enough parachute. So this is most certainly not enough parachute for even this pod. Maybe the smallest one. Even then, it's a bit of a stretch. Anything that's considered a drogue is not really what you want. We're just gonna use these. We're gonna use 2 of these. This is a normal parachute. We could probably get away with 1 or 2, but for safety, I'm gonna do 2 because I am not in the mood to really test that right now. So that pretty much solves that. That's our re-entry pod. That's all we need to know there. We gotta attach it to it. Let's see. If it's that one, it just stacks in line. And then we're gonna do a simple fuel tank. Let's see what we've got. We could even, man, we could be so stingy with this. I could get real silly. Let's try some things. Because you don't need a lot to get back. Again, with that chart, let me pull the chart back up. So what I'm designing right now, this is going to be a 2-staged lander. It's going to land on the moon, and then it's going to eject several fuel pods with attached landing legs and the center section of it will lift off from the moon, fly back in orbit, and return it. Well, we're probably going to rendezvous with the return vehicle, so we don't need all the fuel in the universe for that. So it can be pretty small, and that means it really only needs enough to get us back into orbit around the moon, which technically should only take about 580 to 600, but we'll build in a margin of safety there. So let's do like a structural component to adapt it, one of these guys. I know there's one that fits it. I could be making a liar out of myself, but I'm almost certain. Oh, I forgot about these. These are really handy for what we're doing here. Am I a crazy person? Nobody answer that. Nope. I think they never did give us an adapter for this, but that's okay. We'll still make it work. It'll just be kind of silly. Like something like that could work. It'll be goofy, but it'll functionally work. I mean, I would honestly be fine with this just based on what I'm going to do here design-wise. This doesn't really bother me. Nah, I'm fine with that. Okay. Do you like that fuel tank? And probably we could get away with the spark, honestly. So I can go up to Kerbal Engineer here and set it to be for the moon. And we'll see what our thrust to weight ratio. That's the point that matters. I mean, look how much. That has 1,500 meters per second of delta V. This could take off from the moon in this configuration, rendezvous with another vehicle, leave that vehicle, and then return to the planet fairly easily while adjusting its trajectory along the way. I don't need it to do that, so we're not going to put that much fuel on it. But that's about where we're at. You can make this really efficient. So let's do a little bit smaller fuel tank. We don't need all that. That would be enough to get off the moon, but I want a little more for safety purposes. But that gets us that huge pile of fuel that we don't really need. Okay. Yeah. It should be more than sufficient, honestly. Let's see, we need something to decouple here. What we're gonna do is it's kind of an asparagus staged rocket. Kinda not. Let's see. Fuel tanks. We need couplers. Couplers. There we go. We got that, but what else do we have? These are add-on parts. Some of which are really useful and some of which aren't. That one's kind of handy sized. This could work too, actually. Actually, I really like this. Okay, there we go. So we're gonna offset this. I want it like... Is that about right? Yeah. Cool. Okay. So that's more than enough to get back to orbit. Let's see. What can we do? Where's my little tanks? Those? Those work? Those are very likely to work, actually. Kind of goofy, but I don't really mind them. There's one thing I want to change here, though, before we start attaching things. So here is the part that actually is going to go to orbit. It needs a few extras before it goes. It's going to need monoprop. And it's going to need a reaction system, because I'm going to have it rendezvous with another vehicle. just to make this a little more fun and interesting. Let's see. We need monoprop. These would do. We have this convenient location to stick them. And one thing we can do is we can drop the center of mass a bit here. I'm a little concerned about it, though. I think it's going to be problematic. So once it reaches its destination, I actually don't know about that. I think it needs to be more fuel. I think it needs the additional stack. Where is that? That one, maybe? I'm not 100% convinced it would have enough fuel to actually dock with another vehicle once in orbit. Like you said, it could just go straight back on its own. We wouldn't even need that. So that's a thing too, but we're having fun with this. Dude, be like 580. Where'd you go? $897. I'd have like 300. I think it'd still be fine. I think so. Okay. We're gonna work with it. We're gonna try it. We'll see what happens. Be bold. So. Check something on that. That works. You can even do... I know, right? What's up? How's it going, man? Just building rockets. You know what we can do, too, is we can add roundified tanks to increase it slightly. Why don't we do that? Or even a donut at the bottom. That would make it even easier. Oh, yeah. That makes me very happy. Also, it looks cool. Excellent. Okay. I was trying to watch it yesterday, and it was still saying it was unavailable because it was processing. I figured YouTube was doing something silly, so I'm glad to hear it's popping up now. This is going to be more fuel than could ever possibly be desired for something like this, but I don't care because it's lowering the center of mass, which is what I actually want. So let's see. We start with 1,000. We're going to have burned off half our delta V, just get into orbit. So we're going to simulate that real quick. About there. Maybe there. Maybe a little bit more than that. We'll go like that. So this is our center of mass at the point where we're probably gonna be doing things like trying to get to something. Trying to rendezvous at something, which means we need to raise. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's did you re-upload it, or is this just from yesterday? Because if it still says it's doing that, I'd say YouTube's probably failing on you. So this is actually a mod I'm using. This is the RCS build aid. It allows you to see how well centered your stuff is. I was gonna say you might need to do that. What this tells me, I'm looking at my center of mass. You want your RCS to be lined up on your center of mass if you can help it. This disc actually really helps us with that because we can attach stuff to it. So let's grab, where are you at? These little guys. What this is going to let me do is actually line up our RCS perfectly. Like so. So we're going to set it for the point in the mission where we expect to be using it. And we me set it back to this mode. And you notice, okay, this is RCS build aid here helping me out. That circle and that red arrow shows that this configuration would not be balanced. It would be generating torque, which we either have to fight with our reaction system, or we could just fix by not having it be there in the first place. There we go. That's a fairly balanced system. And then we want to switch our check mode to one of these. Actually, so this is the thing. Right now we've got 2 thrusters in some of our directions and 4 thrusters in other ones. We want this to be even. So what you can do, actually, you know what? I'm fine with this as is, because it's gonna be... What's up, man? How's it going? Let's just check on this. I want to see how many thrusters are firing. This is fine. So this is a sufficient configuration because we're going to use the reaction wheels on the ship for rotational control and the RCS for lateral control. And that's just how that's going to work. If you were trying to build a spacecraft with only RCS thrusters, which is a little harder to accomplish, but let's say you wanted to do that, what you would need to do, this is my trick, is you set up your thruster blocks. And what they would do is they would leave you without one axis covered. You wouldn't have the outward axis covered in any direction. So you can actually like stick these on here and then translate them into position and just line them up. And you end up with a full thruster block that covers all directions without having to add wacky thrusters all over the place on your spacecraft. And you can use that trick all the time. We don't need that here. Getting ready for those, you were saying that the gym's being open, is that what's up? Getting ready for that? But we don't need this on this spacecraft, so we're not actually gonna put those on there right now. But that's a fun trick, where you don't have to put lots and lots of thruster blocks everywhere. Oh, there you go. This should be good. This configuration is good. All right, we're gonna do this. Coupling, 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 couplings. Not that many couplings. We don't need that many. I must feel like I don't even need these, but we're doing them anyway because it's fun. All right, so we got that. Do fuel tanks. We're gonna use the little ones. We're gonna fuel this bad boy back up. Hey man, that's good. It's a thing I need to do more of, honestly. That's always been a problem. I'm not great at the working out. Although if the weather would be a little more consistent, I could at least get out on my bike a bit and get some physical activity in that way. Should probably get a bicycle. That might help. That's actually good exercise for motorcyclists too, or so I've read. A lot of pro motorcyclists are also very, very high tier bicycle riders for that reason. I wish there was a skinnier tank, darn it. We do like this. I'm gonna try something. I'm gonna try something silly. Like, look how cool that looks. Okay. Okay. And then, could we? Might do one more donut down here, actually, which would mean we'd need to adjust, but we're gonna just try something real quick. Can we attach things to those? Yes. Okay. This is wonderful. Look how cool this spacecraft looks. I love it. Digging it. Digging it, digging it, digging it. Thing of beauty. Okay. when they're folded up. Yep, yeah, okay. Let's put those on as low as we can make them, question mark? What I'm being concerned about right now is the nozzle hitting the ground, but I don't think that's going to be a big problem. I think we're going to be fine. I know, right? Get some struts on there. They're so small, though, that they should be fine with just these. I don't think they're going to have any problems, but we can actually test that. So let's save that bad boy, and we'll stick it on the pad, and we'll see if there's any weird flexing going on. I remember when it was so hard to design a compact lander in this game before we had a lot of these new parts and a lot of the translation features. What was that? That was kind of strange. Nah, there's nothing weird going on. In fact, it's structurally sound on the planet, so it should be more than okay on the moon. Excellent. Excellent, excellent. All right. This is looking solid. Really, if it was a real spacecraft, there'd just be like that foil insulation blanket around everything, and it would look really silly on the bottom, like they used on the Apollo. We can turn that off for a moment. All right, let's detach these real quick. The question is, do they have enough fuel to make them worth our while? I want a little more fuel on this bad boy. What do we got? Fuel tanks. I'm also somewhat concerned about the thrust to weight ratio. It's kind of low for a landing. It's gonna be a tricky burn, but it's okay. How much is in that versus how much is in that? Do one more of those. That should still be doable. That's 1100 minus 500-ish, 600-ish. It would be a little less than 600 remaining. Let's just put it down to like that. It honestly ended up, that actually balances out really well there. Okay. That's looking really good. Let's put the fuel back in. Turn that off. We'll stop worrying about it. Honestly, your RCS doesn't have to be perfectly balanced. You can really eyeball it. I'm just very persnickety about it. I wanted to demonstrate how well you can really adjust this stuff. So this is the real question. We put the engine down here. And we put these tanks down here. We need to attach them. It's optional. Let's do this. This will look cool. Put them like right like that. Yes, yes. Oh, there's no way to get these straight, though, is the only thing, so you kind of have to accept some silliness, but it can be done. I like this lander. It's a little tall for my taste, but for two people, it's not bad. And it has a lip they can kind of hit if you need to while you're trying to get them back into it. So, all right, that stage one. It's not enough is the only problem. That is not enough to land it. It's enough to take off, but not enough to land. So let's see what we can do about that. Can I like attach these darn things? Like I stick like a donut on top of these bad boys or anything along those lines. Like, let's do that. Look how cool that looks. Okay, okay. I don't think these can be attached, though. So we might have to do some clipping shenanigans. Oop, that didn't like that. That's still well outside my... I like to have about 800 meters per second minimum to land with. That is just me. Because I want the option to hover. So... let's be tricky. Come on. Oh, oh, oh. I keep seeing it. That actually looks really cool, doesn't it? Oh, that's interesting. Huh. They're not actually attached. Those were also on the same detachable. All right. So if we slide that down just a smidge so it like clears. I'm digging it. I'm digging it. It's still technically two separate tanks, so as far as I know. Yeah, RCS is heavily affected by center of mass, though. Do we actually need that, or do they combine together? Can't tell what's happening here. There's some weirdness occurring. It's acting like it doesn't like that. Like it's not recognizing. There we go. No, okay. This is great. This is more than enough. This is a landable lander. So this will be able to land on the surface, separate takeoff, and reach orbit and rendezvous with another vehicle. So let's save it and stick it on the pad, and we'll just test that while we're here. It's a good idea to test things before you go to the moon. But yeah, you don't have to have the RCS build aid centered RCS. I have no idea what's going on there. I think it's FMRS taking effect. I don't even need that mod to do that. You can eyeball it with your center of mass indicator and get it pretty much right. Do it. And I'll actually show you once we get back into the builder. I have a mod. It's called Kerbal Engineer Redux, and a single mod that you should get for Kerbal, like of any mods, it's that one. It's the single most useful mod. It's build and flight useful information. Makes everything better. Laid out in a very good way, and they've incorporated a lot of that into the stock game now, and I can show you that too. But like there's ways to see it. Like you can see some of this in your maneuver node stuff now. Like you can see maneuver nodes. You can go into the map quicker. There's like a docking mode now. But you don't need all of this information so much as what engineer shows you is really helpful while you're building it. But this looks pretty good. Let's test the staging. It's gonna get explodey, but that's okay. So it can't actually take off here for obvious reasons. And that's what it'll do on the moon. And then we're gonna cut that engine off before it explodes. Is it stuttering a lot? Here, let me try something here. Let me know if this helps. It could be on my end. I'm not seeing any indication, but that doesn't mean anything. Interesting. What is going on here? Yeah, I'm dropping frames. Why is that happening? How weird. Let's see if we can figure that out real quick. I'm gonna fix it. I don't know why it's dropping all these frames, but let me do this. Well, you know what? We'll try this first. That could be happening. I think something's malfunctioning with the stream. Let's try. There's not a lot of CPU usage. I don't see why it should be doing that. I'll tell you what. Let me restart the stream real quick, and we'll see if it decides to function. So I will be back in like 30 seconds. We'll see if it's working correctly then. Maybe something went wrong.